Finally, I've got my hands on a powerful Ryzen gaming laptop. This is the MSI Alpha 15, the A3DD model, and now sadly it's not a 4th gen Ryzen laptop. As much as I would love it to be, I do have one of those coming from MSI at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, but while we still can, let's take a look at this 3750H based machine, see how well it does, see if it's worth some money while we've got it. Now with that said, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you can understand where this laptop sits in the market, I'm going to tell you its price first. This is about £1,000 for this machine. You can option it up slightly to another £100 more for a bit of extra storage, but that's the sort of budget price point it's at. Now, interestingly, this is basically just an MSI GL65, at least in terms of its chassis anyway. It's got the exact same I/O on both sides, which is 3 USB Type A's, a Type C, HDMI, mini display ports, headphone and microphone jacks, and a DC in, SD card reader, Ethernet, and all that jazz, and it's got the same bottom plate too. The only main differences are a grey top piece keyboard plate on the Alpha 15 and also a new logo on the top of the clamshell as well. Of course, the main difference though is what's inside. The spec on this laptop, like I said, is a Ryzen 3750H, which means quad core with 8 threads, and in my testing was boosting to about 3.4 GHz. You also have an AMD graphics card here, an RX 5500M, and you also have up to 16 gigs of RAM and up to, I think, a terabyte of SSD space, although this one has 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of SSD space available. Now, because of that 550M, performance is not going to be on par with the GL65, which is a more expensive machine anyway. Even the 1660 Ti is going to be a reasonably faster machine, and obviously with the GL65 offering up to a 2060, that's going to be a reasonable difference, again at a fairly significant cost increase as well. With that said, while we're talking about performance, let's take a look at the benchmark results. So starting off with Battlefield 5, obviously at 1080p since that's the laptop's resolution, on ultra settings with DirectX 12 enabled but no DXR, we're seeing 59 FPS average here with a 1% low of just 16.9 FPS. That's not the smoothest gaming experience, but considering it is on ultra settings, that's definitely not bad. When it comes to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, we've got much better results here. 74 FPS average and a 1% low of 38% at 30 FPS, which is great for this kind of settings. When it comes to PUBG, again on ultra settings, testing on the Sanhok map, I was getting 66 FPS average, with a 1% low of basically 50 FPS, which again is actually pretty decent. When it comes to Fortnite, pretty similar result here. Again, epic settings, the multi-core rendering enabled, 72 FPS average and a 1% low of 37 FPS, which certainly again isn't bad, especially for this price point and the sort of power available to it. Now, performance-wise, this thing isn't beastly. It's not meant to be, considering its price point anyway, but the fact that it can hit 60 FPS at ultra settings in these games is actually a really good sign. It means that you can make use of the 140 Hz screen that's on here if you turn your settings down to medium or even high in some cases, and you get a great gaming experience. Even if you do want to run on ultra everything, 60 FPS is still a very playable experience on this type of machine, and so it gets a reasonable thumbs up there. One thing I should note with AMD GPU based machines is that sometimes their switchable graphics, meaning the switching between the integrated graphics on the CPU and the discrete graphics card, in this case the 5500M, can be a little finicky at times. Now, the process for fixing your problem is really simple. All you do is open the graphics driver, click on System, and then click on Switchable Graphics, find the game's exe, the game's actual file, and set it to high performance, and that will make it automatically switch to the high performance graphics card when you want to play the game. It can make a very big difference. I was playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare and I was getting like 13 FPS just in the menus, so when I went to the driver and switched it over and restarted the game, I was getting a locked 60 FPS in the menu and well over 60 FPS in the actual game itself, which was much better. What's even more impressive than the performance though is actually the temperatures and noise. See, I'm used to testing Intel-based gaming laptops where the 9750H turbos itself all the way to 100 degrees Celsius and then thermal throttles and sits at like 80 to 90 degrees Celsius constantly. This, however, maxed out, the maximum temperature the CPU hit was 83 degrees Celsius, and it fairly happily sat about 65, 66 degrees Celsius while gaming. The graphics card was the same, again sitting about 66 degrees Celsius while gaming, which is a far cry from the 80 or so on the GPU normally, and like I said, about 100 or so on the CPU with a Intel and Nvidia based laptop. Now display wise, it's rocking the usual 144Hz IPS level panel that MSI like to quote, although it seems like this is a different panel than their usual laptops. Now I say that because while the gaming experience, actually sitting down and playing games on it, actually felt pretty decent, felt like a reasonable experience I didn't have too many problems with, so can't complain too heavily. The high-speed camera tells no lies, and the response time that I was seeing here, well actually the response time I was seeing from black to white was pretty decent. It was around 6 or 7 milliseconds, but there's an important point here, which is if you look at the high-speed footage, hopefully I'm showing that on screen, you can see that the box has a really long trail behind it. That's because the white to black response time is somewhere in the order of 30 milliseconds. That's really slow and means that the sort of trailing edge ghosting can be pretty bad. Another disappointing result for the display is the input lag. Now, I've tested the MSI GE65, a slightly higher end model than the GL and Alpha 15s, and that was seeing around about 20 milliseconds faster than this panel. Now, I should mention that I've tested with this methodology a whole load of laptops, systems, and monitors, and I can tell you that a really good result in this test is about 20 milliseconds or under. A fairly average result would be anywhere between 30 and 40 milliseconds, and a really bad one is about 60, which is what this is sitting at. This is a really slow panel, or at very least input lag chain, and that's not great for a smooth and responsive gaming experience. And as if to drive the nail even further into the coffin is the colors. Now, actually just viewing content on this isn't too bad. It doesn't look horrendously off, but using my Spider 5 and Datacolor's own software, it reported that this panel can only do about 59% of the sRGB spectrum and about 44% of the Adobe RGB and DCI-P3 spectrums as well. That's really not great. If you're planning on using this for any level of content consumption, or content creation rather, I can't overly recommend it. Now, what about the keyboard and trackpad though? They've got to be better, right? Well, yes, by comparison, they're much better. The trackpad is the same sort of thing you'd find in pretty much any budget MSI laptop, and the keyboard is the same you'd find on pretty much any MSI laptop. It's a fairly nice, fairly easy to type on, if a little light and a little mushy for my personal preference, but it's reasonably well laid out. You have a FN and Windows button switcher in the MSI Dragon Center Control Center application, and realistically, it's plenty fine for a student who wants to do some work between gaming sessions, which honestly I think is how I would round out this laptop in general. If you are a student who's looking for a reasonably budget laptop that can perform reasonably well in games while still also being pretty decent on battery life, it's about 5 hours of quoted time here compared to the usual 3 or 4 that you get on a, say, GL65 type machine, and you have a fairly decent overall usage experience, even if the screen isn't the fastest or the best for colors. Now, if you want to check out the Alpha 15, then feel free to take a look at the top link in the description down below. That's an Amazon affiliate link that will take you to your local Amazon store, where you can see pricing when and where you watch this, because it can and does vary. I would also love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of the Alpha 15? Would you rather wait on a 4th gen Ryzen version, or would you pick this up now, or would you go with an Intel option that's a little bit more expensive but potentially more, especially graphics horsepower, to go with it, let me know in those comments down below. And like I said at the start, if you want to see more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, then do hit that subscribe button with the bell notification icon. You can also check out the rest of the links in the description down below if you want to support the channel in more ways than just watching these videos and subscribing. There's a load of stuff down there. There's stuff like merch or hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs, and there's also stuff like Overclockers UK affiliate links if you're buying from them. There's also stuff like Streamlabs OBS if you want to start streaming, Humble Bundle for cheap games to support charities too, and yeah, just a load of other stuff, so feel free to go check it out. You can also check out some more videos over there. I'll leave the GL65 review over there if you want to see the comparison and how it compares. And that is pretty much it. Like I said, if you've got any questions, leave those in the comments down below, and otherwise we'll see you all in the next video.